Well, guys, to recap kind of, what was a very disappointing loss for us, no doubt about it. The guys, I really felt, played their tails off when you go back and watch the film. Some of the shifts motions, we let, get loose, especially on the outside speed sweeps, and yet kind of got that adjusted at halftime. I thought the staff did a great job with that. I think as we came out and put those drives together, to kind of get back. Obviously, the one thing that the numbers tell is the third down piece, and that's something that as I talked about teams going on the road, and I even spoke to it ourselves. We play on the road. One of the things you got to do is be really good on third down. And to their credit, they did a really good job of that. We've gone ahead, looked at it. We'll get it reviewed, obviously, with our guys today, and now get ready to learn from it and move forward, and get ready to go play Texas A&M at 7 o'clock here in the Swamp. And this is a very talented team we're going to play, as you guys are well aware. I know our guys are ready to get going again. I mean, you could feel that at team dinner, the disappointment, and yet the excitement to really move forward and still go get after it. It's we're going to be, as we get to the favorite part of the day with the injury report, you're going to see that we're going to be down some guys, but at the same time, we're going to have some guys step up. The challenge this week, obviously, is against this team. Them defensively, John Chavis has been doing it a long time, guys, and he's really good. You see how they get after the passer. Protection is going to be huge. Negative plays, the things that they create from that standpoint, their takeaways. Those are the things that we've got to be prepared for, and we've got to get better in the pass protection piece moving forward. And this is one of those weeks where we're really going to be challenged with that. And jumping into, their sync package and the things that he's done over the years, he does a really good job of it. Offensively, very mobile quarterback. So totally kind of different in some cases. A guy that really has been good on third down with his feet and the explosive natures of their playmakers on the outside and take that to special teams. I mean, we got to do a great job of covering, and we got to do a great job of kicking. So we got our work cut out for us, and yet you know what, guys, is the idea is to win. We didn't win, and that is the reality of what happened. And so what you do is you reflect on it more than anything and say, okay, what are some of the reasons for the win or for the loss? And look at those, come back, get your guys ready to play, and our guys will be ready to play. And you know what, I really credit the toughness that our guys have right now, and seeing just how they played that, and even some of the guys that were nicked up, the way they played, it was great to see. So from the injury piece of it, guys, it'll be out as of now. Nick Washington, with that shoulder that he's had issues with, reoccurred, obviously. Brett Hagee will probably be what we'd say is doubtful for this week based on concussion protocol. Tyree Cleveland, again, we'll see. That's going to be a tough one. Chauncey Gardner, Jeremiah Moon, both guys have played through, did a heck of a job in that game, and yet nothing for sure until Wednesday. We'll see how they go, but as of right now, these guys won't be going today. Kadarius Toney speaks to his toughness. He got banged up in the first quarter, a couple different spots, and finished the game, and he'd be highly questionable for this week as well. But all those guys will be out of practice today, and then we'll see kind of where we move forward with that as the week kind of progresses. So, there's good opportunity for guys as we go, and this is nothing new. This is part of playing in this conference. This is part of being in the SEC. It's part of playing football, and so we'll put plans together to help the guys around them be successful. Questions?
You guys rank near the bottom of the country in terms of number of plays per game. What are some of the reasons for that, and then what can you do to maybe, pick up the tempo to increase that?
Yeah, I think working some more of our fastball stuff. This last game, our numbers had a lot to do with the third down piece, both not winning on offense and not getting the ball back on defense. And they did a good job of controlling it. You see how they huddled and really were snapping late in the shot clock, which shut down some of those opportunities. I think the key is just staying on the field in third downs.
Following up on that, LaMichael Pirine said that one of the issues, especially late in the game, was getting the calls in. He said he felt like it was a little slow there. Have you seen anything like that?
I think part of it is getting the signal and getting it called and go. I think that obviously was evident in that last 4 minutes, especially when we were down there backed up.
You talked about evaluating the reasons for the loss, aside from the third downs and obviously the missed extra point. Anything you put your finger on in terms of the offensive performance?
Yeah, I think, and really to kind of couple with the first question, I think the tempo and fluidity in which it goes. You could see at times it was good, and yet at times it wasn't. There was questions instead of just flowing right into it, and we got to continue to work on that.
Who does that fall on? I know it falls ultimately on you.
It's on me. It's on me for not having ultimately not having from the communication piece, making sure that it's not too big, right, and yet big enough to give you an advantage, and I've got to continue to work on that.
Well, so every time this team struggles on offense, everyone starts going crazy, out there about it and questioning this, that, and the other. What is a reasonable expectation of this offense given redshirt freshman quarterback, injuries, suspensions?
Yeah. Probably the things you brought up, they're not excuses. And the expectation, I would say at this point, is to play at a faster pace with less of those, not every play is going to be perfect, but we need to be perfect on those gotta have it downs, that leads back to the third down piece, especially against a good team. And so those are things that we need to, and I expect to get better. And yet we need to continue to grow with those guys, and we need to have a plan to put them in position to where maybe some of the one-on-ones that we kind of get beat on at times up front, we've got to have better help with some chips and some things that way to secure the opportunity for us to push the ball downfield. And we just need to continue to build on those and get better at it. Very valid question.
Felipe seems to have the right attitude toward it. I mean, he doesn't seem to get down. He seems to be motivated. Where is his development at this point? I mean, is it where you expect? I mean, have you had a quarterback? I don't know your whole history, but have you worked with a guy who's going in his fifth start, I think, this week, and
Sure.
what are the challenges?
No, I think the challenges is making sure from a situational standpoint, those things, I talked about, his growth before, even, a week ago in some of those situations that we just need to continually work on that piece. Look, he's working his tail off. We've got to give him some time, to be able to deliver as well. And, those are all the pieces that need to come together. We also need to go get open against man-to-man coverage.
No forced turnovers in 3 games. How much would it help if you could reverse that?
Yeah, and I think there were 5 pretty crucial opportunities this week, and it's again, it's the strip drills, the ball drills, all of those things continue to happen. And I think the aggressive nature in which we get 11 around the ball, we got to really continue to do that without saying, you know what, I'm going to go for the strip and not worry about the tackle. We've got to be able to continue that piece.
And if Tony can't play, who's the next up at Wildcat?
Dre obviously is, and he'll be ready to go.
I know fans are usually pretty critical, but you had a former player that was pretty open, Brian Cox, about the struggles on offense this week. Did you see those comments?
I was told about it, and that's Brian, man. I love him, and yet he's a Gator.
Do you worry at all that sentiment maybe slips to your team a little bit, where guys are getting frustrated?
Well, I'm sure they are, because they want to win as bad as anybody, and ultimately it's about winning, and we didn't win this last game.
You talked after the game about wanting to look at the extra point miss. Now that you've had a couple days looking at it, was it a bad snap, bad hold, bad whatever?
It was a little bit of everything. I mean, it wasn't the perfect snap. It wasn't the perfect hold. Caught it in the middle of spinning it. But, those guys have done that enough that, sometimes that happens. I think Rick Barry missed a free throw once, right?
Once or twice.
So, that happens. And that definitely, although you look at it from an impact of the score piece of it, but, in the big picture, that was just one, right, of opportunities that we didn't take care of.
Ryan.
Well, you got shut down right there. I mean, he just took it right out of your mouth. Yeah, he just didn't get it out of here. Yeah.
Kind of going back to Edgar's
You do
stuff
have a
earlier.
little Matumbo to you, don't you? You just got it. Yeah.
Going back to Edgar's stuff about the offense. So the 108 passing yards were the lowest since 14. What is an ideal balance? Obviously, the rushing attack is worth leaning on, but what do you see as the ideal balance?
Well,
this
you'd
offense?
like to be 250 and 250. And in some games, you'd like to be 300 and 300. Other games, you'd love to be 400 and 400. So I think there lies the balance.
And how much stuff has there been in the game plan to go downfield that just hasn't been executed, either because of the protection or because of Felipe or because of whatever?
Those shots, we get them scripted. We obviously need to hit them is the big piece. And so it's something that we go in with a prescribed amount, and whether we get there or not, sometimes that's flow of the game and situation as well.
Edgar.
So on offense, I mean, you guys set goals, I assume, for games. Do
Yeah.
you have like numerical, like we want to do this percentage on third down, et cetera?
Yeah, we haven't got to them.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say.
So, yeah.
Well, I was wondering if you were hitting any goals, if there was things that you're looked to
one of
build
the-
on the run game, for example.
Yeah,
maybe?
I mean, we hit explosive runs, right? And total number of explosives. We obviously didn't win the fourth quarter, which is a team goal, on both sides of the ball. It's important we haven't hit our turnover marks, from that standpoint. And, obviously the third down. When we have got it down there, we've done a pretty decent job of producing points. But now we got to get there more often, right?
And then one more Felipe question. What are the things that he's doing that you're really encouraged by? And then maybe the one thing that he kind of just needs to stop doing? I don't know what it is. I mean, some guys
No.
pat the ball or they
Right. No, I think
run too early or whatever.
one of the things he does is he gets, a little too deep in the pocket at times, from a stride standpoint, where there's a launch point we need to continue to work on. His ball security is much better. I think at times he goes through with really good command, and the flow piece is really good, and we got to continue to work on that. And when the first one isn't there, let's get to 2 and 3. We need to continue to work on that. But he by no means was the reason we didn't get a W this week.
Matt, over here on the right.
We already touched on the Brian Cox comment, but there have been a couple other players kind of on Twitter maybe making some comments about more playing time and what have you, and obviously mentioned that frustration comes in at times like this. What is
Sure.
kind of the mentality? What are things like in the locker room? Are you sensing this stuff, or?
No, I think this is a tight-knit group that's been through a bunch. You're always going to be, doesn't matter, what field you're in, there'll be frustration if you're not, getting a bunch of snaps, because that's natural. And, the reaction piece to it. But I think as a whole, when you look at it, this team's pretty close, and they were hurt, so, we have that same thing when you go win. So, I mean, it's no different, right? And usually you can probably predict the people that are disgruntled, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
You guys had the strong run defense performance against Vanderbilt, but every other team has rushed for at least 120 against you guys. A&M's averaging 225.
Yeah.
What do you guys have to do this week to make sure that they're not able to run wild?
Well, I think the big piece is we're going to have to control what they do with the quarterback element as well. As you look at what they do, and then their RPOs off of it, which produce their passing game piece. That's got to be big, and we're gonna have to get lined up and go, because these guys will press the tempo, and Noel's always done a good job with that wherever he's been. So, structurally, if you want to really put it, this is totally different than a week ago, and so, and I'm sure they're going to look back and say, look what Vanderbilt did throwing it on us. And see some opportunities there as well.
Mark?
Going back to the offense, the middle of the field, I think you hit a couple of passes there, but it seems like that's still lacking, the middle of the field, and then no touches for the tight ends.
Yeah,
And
attacking the middle of the field and getting those guys involved was big. We've obviously had to use them a little bit in protection as part of that piece as well, as you start to, move the pocket and get yourself into your 7-man protection stuff as well. So things we need to get better at.
And there.
Sticking with that, obviously throughout the week you're involved in the offensive game plan, but on Saturdays, how much are you involved just in personnel, play calling, anything like that?
We talk between series, obviously, and thoughts about kind of what's there and what direction we need to go, and it's something not that we haven't talked about going into it, so.
But like adjustments in between
Yeah.
you and Doug
Yeah,
on the
and
headset.
then, at halftime, obviously sitting down and, hey, this is what we're seeing, this is what we've got to counter with based on those looks.
Defensively, you guys have put on tape a lot of not containing the edge, and when you're playing a team that can run the option kind of like this, that's obviously something they'll try to attack. How do you work on that in practice and just, I guess, guys play more disciplined?
Well, I think part of it too is speed on speed that we do, good on good, as much as we can give the defense that, because it's hard to simulate that no matter where you're at, from the standpoint of, okay, these are the looks, this is what you're going to see. Now, the speed at which it's happening, thought, like I said, I thought they did a great job of just saying, look, there was a couple examples where they run the exact same play, we had the exact same call, we're up the field and we knock it for a 3-yard loss, and another example where we're hesitant, right? And, it goes around for a big gain. So I think the big thing is to make sure you reiterate that your training, right? And trust your training.
Brian.
You mentioned receivers needing to get open. How pronounced did you feel the loss of Tyree was on just the way things ran offensively?
Anytime you lose big playmakers, it obviously has an impact. But I also expect the other guys to, pick up slack and go forward.
And then you made the move to Luke a couple weeks ago before he got hurt to give the offense a spark. What is the leash or patience now for Felipe? And is Malik pushing him at all in practice?
Yeah, Malik's been doing a really good job, and we'll go with Felipe and move forward from there.
We'll wrap it up with Mark.
What'd you think of the Tom Petty tribute? Were you able to actually watch that? And are you excited that it looks like it's going to be a weekly thing now?
It was hard not to notice it. I can't say enough about the fans in the swamp, and I had some comments from their people afterwards that, like, Mac, unbelievable environment, and it was. I mean, I credit our fans that show up and cheer our guys on, and then to see that after the We Are the Boys, and to hear that place in unison, and it was special. And my credit goes to the people who put it together, and more than that, the response then of the fans, and ultimately, I won't back down. It kind of hits home for me.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, appreciate it. All right.